continue? And are we just going to introduce as we go along?
Let's do that.
Okay. All right. So I will start my sharing here. Oh, it's not. I'm not in slide presenting. Okay. And it's finicky. Okay. So, well, thank you all for coming today. And today, our presentation on the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's Information for Planning and Consultation online tool, which from here on out will be referred to as IPAC, has four main components. First, we'll provide an overview of IPAC and how it fits into the consultation process under Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act, as well as other forms of technical assistance and coordination with our office. Second, using our online beta IPAC tool, we'll demonstrate a step-by-step process of how to create an official species list and create a login.gov account. Third, we'll introduce another feature in IPAC called determination keys, or D keys for short. D keys are logically structured sets of questions designed to assist users in determining if a project qualifies for predetermined consultation outcomes based on existing programmatic consultations or internal U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service standing analyses. We are currently developing D keys, so you may come across these in the near future in your work. Fourth, we'll briefly introduce you to another feature in IPAC called the Consultation Package Builder. While this is not yet available here in Hawaii, you will come across it while you're in IPAC, and understanding what it is will help you avoid going down a rabbit hole. Working with partners, I've learned when we're in IPAC, you'll be asked questions such as, do you want to use Consultation Builder? Should you pursue further, down this path and open this link? And the short answer is no. At this time, do not do anything with Consultation Builder. So what is IPAC? IPAC was created to streamline the environmental review process. If you are planning a project, one of the first things you'll want to do is to obtain an official species list in IPAC. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has spent years collecting, vetting, and analyzing data, and we continue to do so, which now helps to support IPAC so project proponents can input their project area, answer a few questions, and voila, receive a list in minutes that contains all of the federally listed species, designated critical habitat, wetlands in the National Wetland Inventory, as well as what trust resources may be in or transit through the project area. And considering it used to be that people would write us a letter and then have to wait, and then we would respond eventually with a list of species, via an email letter, or in the old days, a hard copy letter. This is a substantial improvement and really does streamline the process. It is important to note at this time, however, that IPAC only provides data for species under U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service jurisdiction and those for which we share jurisdiction with NOAA, like sea turtles. Data on NOAA-only listed species and marine mammals are not currently in IPAC. You will therefore need to also, as appropriate, consult with NOAA in the state. And to go back to the trust resources, in case people aren't familiar, trust resources include not only listed species under the Endangered Species Act, but also migratory birds, interjurisdictional fish, marine mammals, and other species of concerns, all their habitats, as well as federal facilities such as national wildlife refuges. We are now requiring an IPAC official species list for all consultations under Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act. If there is a federal nexus to your project, you will need to obtain an official species list in IPAC. We are also now requiring an official species list prior to any request for project technical assistance and coordination under the Fish and Wildlife Coordination Act. IPAC helps you, our partners, by giving you a tool to receive essential information to inform your environmental assessments, environmental impact statements, permit reviews, consultation requests, and so forth. Whether it's public or private, or for urban development, or for conservation or restoration purposes, IPAC can and should be used. IPAC is a public facing platform, meaning anyone can use IPAC. Federal agencies, state, and private all have access to IPAC and can use it in project planning. Creating an official species list should be one of the first steps in the project planning process. If you reach out to us for technical assistance or consultation without having obtained an official species list, we will promptly and kindly direct you to IPAC to obtain one. In addition to the list of endangered and threatened species, designated critical habitat, wetlands, and other trust resources in your project area, your official species list will include a link under each species that provides important life history for that species, how project impacts or how project actions may impact those listed species, and actions that can be taken to avoid or minimize impacts to listed species. There will also be a project code. Each unique project is assigned a project code, and that project code should be used in all correspondences with the Fish and Wildlife Service regarding that project. It is now our primary method of tracking projects. Sometimes when partners get their official species list, or their the draft list, which is what we don't recommend submitting to our office, the number of species can be quite overwhelming. But we want you to keep in mind that IPAC provides species with the ranges that overlap the project area. That doesn't mean that those species are actually in the project area. If you think that one or more of the species is not likely to be present in the area or even pass through the project site, such as it's likely to be extinct, or there is just literally no habitat for that species, or some other valid reason, just explain so concisely in your letter, a rationale as to why you think that, and that is acceptable. Whether or not we concur, we talk about that later, but you can definitely use your best judgment to make that call when you see that list. So going back to the Fish and Wildlife Coordination Act. The Fish and Wildlife Coordination Act directs the service to investigate and report on proposed federal actions that affect streams or other bodies of water, and to provide recommendations to minimize impacts on fish and wildlife resources. So if you have a project that occurs adjacent to or in or may impact in any way a body of water, it's similar to Section 7. If there's a federal nexus, you will need to consult with the Fish and Wildlife Service to ensure that fish, wildlife, and other trust resources receive equal consideration as other project features. And again, we are now requiring project proponents to obtain an official species list, whether it's a permit review or an actual project that is occurring. It's just, if you reach out to us for a specific project, please obtain an official species list. Your list of species will include some migratory bird species that are of conservation concern. We have avoidance and minimization measures for a few species specific to Hawaii, and that are of the species of concern, and that's the monuaku on Oahu, the eo on the island of Hawaii, and wedge-tailed shearwaters across the island. Other native migratory birds of conservation concern that are protected under the MBTA have nationwide conservation measures in IPAC that can help project proponents avoid and minimize impacts. So here's a link. I'm going to provide this PowerPoint with also some notes in it after the fact, and I believe it will also be shared online. But here's some sites that you'll find useful later on. And so in closing of my segment of this presentation, I will remind you once again to please obtain an official species list prior to any request for technical assistance or consultation with our office. I will now hand this hand it over to Victoria and Shelby from our headquarters IPAC team in Washington, D.C., who will walk you through creating an official species list and give you the brief overview of the two other features in IPAC, which are determination keys and consultation builder. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, now we get the top people.
Can you see my screen?
We sure can.
Wonderful. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Victoria Foster. I am the National IPAC Program Coordinator. I am based out of our headquarters office with Fish and Wildlife Service in Virginia administratively. And we really appreciate the chance to come contribute to this conversation today. A little bit of background, I've been in this position for about 7.5 years. And prior to that, I was working in our South Florida field office for about a decade. And I was primarily doing and overseeing our Section 7 consultation work. So helping people achieve Section 7 and navigate the consultation process in an effective and efficient manner is really near and dear to my heart because I worked in it for so long. So as you heard Carrie say, IPAC is it's a project planning tool, it's an environmental streamlining tool, and really we are aimed at making the process of Section 7 consultation easier for everyone involved. It is a fully public-facing online application, and to reiterate, here is the live or production link to IPAC. And we also are one of the few federal applications that has a fully public beta site or testing and training site. So everyone can go ahead and use both of these sites. We do ask if you're just kind of trying out IPAC or you're testing projects and getting your feel for how the application works, and it's not real work that you're going to be doing. We ask that you use the beta website. All of the functionality and then some is available in there. So that's where we test our new determination keys. It's where we test new functionality. So you'll run into a few things in there above and beyond what's in production, but always everything that's in production is also on beta. So I know IPAC feels really new. It's quite new to Hawaii, actually. We brought Hawaii online with us just about 2 years ago, I think. But we've actually been around with IPAC for over a decade. IPAC came online in 2010 with releasing these official species lists and helping people to self-serve, knowing what species are in their area and getting information about them. We've been working for a number of years to improve IPAC and add these additional features like determination keys and consultation package builder. So I won't touch on everything across this slide. I will just say that it's been an evolutionary process over the years, not only in getting the data collected to be serving out through IPAC. As Carrie mentioned, the service collects and curates a lot of data to serve out, and we continue to grow that pool of data so that we can provide helpful information to our users. And we've also been growing our usership over the years. We'll talk a little bit more about logging in. You do need a login.gov account to use IPAC, and each person is an individual account. And just for scale, when we first started asking people to have an account and started delivering determination keys was 2016. We had just under 3,000 users. And at the end of April, we were up to over 66,000 users. So there is a lot of folks using IPAC. There have been a lot of documents delivered, and this certainly as a whole is not a new platform. It's been tried and true, and we're actually so excited to have our Pacific Islands folks joining us and using official species lists and using determination keys. We hope it's going to be really helpful for streamlining. So we do have one solid vision for IPAC that we've been working under for over 6 years, and this is what I'm showing on the screen. We're aiming at improving the process of Section 7, as I mentioned before. Our goal is to make that process easier for everyone involved by leveraging technology to help improve consistency, improve transparency, improve predictability. We also believe if this process is easier overall, we'll also deliver better conservation. So I keep honing in on process. we are not ever going to replace, nor should we or do we want to, those really important conversations that you have with your biologists out there in the service office. We certainly never imagined to kind of cut that off. We just want to be a nice first starting point, get you started on the right foot, give you some streamlining tools that are available, and then, help you in the door is a good way to say that. We're not aimed at the procedural biological knowledge, just making the process itself more navigable. So I'll touch a few high-level points on the tools we offer, and then Shelby's going to show them off. The official species list that you've been asked to do for Pacific Islands to kind of walk in the door, so to say, to start your projects. We've delivered about 308,000 of these in the last 3 fiscal years. So there's a lot of these going out. This is a little graph of the last 3 fiscal years. About 300 of them a day go out, and IPAC delivers them on behalf of the field office. So what you'll have when you get an official species list are species that you should consider when you're starting your project, as well as all of those other trust resources. If there's data on them in the area where you might be working, we provide that data as well, so you have it all in one spot that you can reference. And the other thing that I do want to point out about official species lists that's really valuable on our side is, so for years, Fish and Wildlife Service has a requirement to keep track of the documents we write and the projects that we work on. And we've done this in a database. It was that database that we used for years was sunsetted and replaced with a new one in 2021. And that kind of project tracking is called Ecosphere. So what IPAC does is it's connected to Ecosphere in the background. So when you're doing your work and getting an official species list and getting all of that really helpful information, we're also pre-populating that database. So a biologist in an office doesn't need to spend however much time that would take, 10, 15, 20 minutes, typing in a name and drawing a location and typing a project type. Everything that you're kind of filling out in IPAC to get the information to help you with your project gets automatically populated in our project database, and it's there and they're synced up and we have the same information automatically. So it's a big time savings for us, as well as to start the project with the right information. We have our termination keys, and again, as Carrie mentioned, these are aimed at streamlining consultation itself. And so they're logically structured sets of questions, and they help a user determine whether a project can qualify for a type of preset streamlined consultation, like a programmatic or a standing analysis. This is a picture of one, it's a wood stork key out of Florida. And I like to use this here as an example that these are also not something new to IPAC. These have been around for almost 20 years now. IPAC just brought them out of paper world and put them online. And it allows us to do really cool things like leverage geospatial data. So if there's a question that's based on a map, we don't have to ask a user that question. We have the map, we know where you're working, we know the answer. So it makes things really easy, and we can further automate the process of figuring out, do I qualify for this automated streamlined consultation? And can I possibly get to an outcome even faster? We currently have 22 available on IPAC. We have about 10 more in development, including 3 in the Pacific Islands. And I believe you'll be seeing one of those that's being developed for Pacific Islands today in our demo, so you can see something that's really relevant to you. And this slide is just showing approximate use over the last 3 fiscal years. Again, we've been using these since 2016, which is when they first were launched. They've been growing not only in the number of keys we have available, but in the use of those determination keys as well. And they are a huge time savings in and of themselves. So beyond the official species list, where we're simply sharing some information about a project, for determination keys, there are some folks that are able to get to their final consultation outcome for no effect or for low effect, not likely to adversely affect projects, and be done in often less than an hour. And so previously we're in that paper process for consultation. You'd write up the package, send it to the office, wait for biologists to review it. They get back to you with a letter, and that can take weeks. And depending on the office and the workload, sometimes it took quite a few weeks. Now for some of these programmatics, you can have your outcome almost instantaneously, and everything is logged as we need it to be captured in our project tracking. and our IPAC users have their final outcome letter with any information they need in it to know if there's additional follow-up that's needed or additional information needed by the field office. So I'm going to touch really briefly on the consultation package builder, because this isn't something right now that is being encouraged to be used out in Hawaii. There's not a lot of underlying data that makes it highly valuable, but it is one of our major pieces of functionality. It's our third big tool in our toolbox, so to say, with IPAC. It was released at the end of 2020, and it's an optional tool that really is trying to help users do a thorough biological analysis and compile a complete consultation package, if you prefer to put it together this way. So the main aspects of Consultation Package Builder is assisting a user in developing that really comprehensive action area. So thinking about all the different areas that could be affected by the work that you're planning on the ground, whether that's noise or light or other things that sometimes get missed that are like outside of just the little spot where you're doing the work. Helping users analyze and document all the potential effects, but also your proposed conservation actions, and leading you through the thought process of a good consultation outcome. Is it not likely? Is it likely? Those kind of effect determination decisions. It's a consistently formatted document. And as I mentioned, it leverages Fish and Wildlife Service's data on species and impacts where that's available to help provide a lot of helpful suggestions and recommendations. So as more data becomes available out in Pacific Islands, and as we make some improvements to this particular functionality, because it is actually a very long process to walk through this particular tool, I can see that, you know, maybe in the future, that's something you might be more interested in out there. But for now, I just wanted to touch on what it is. And Shelby's going to show you the questions when you get up to it and kind of how to think yourself through, like, maybe I don't need to use this, how to get to that space. So I've got two last slides, and they're really just talking about the why and the investment. So as I mentioned, I know that IPAC as a whole is fairly new out there in Hawaii, and it has been around for a while. We've been piloting things and growing it with tools and functionality on the mainland. And really, it's been a really large technical investment for Fish and Wildlife Service, something that's been a huge commitment and that we can continue to commit to and invest in. So along with trying to realize our investment, we really want IPAC to be functional. And when we look at what we're delivering, we're seeing that it is. We're seeing that the estimated time savings for just the documents we issue for fish, for ourselves, for our agency, is over 134,000 hours over 4 years, over our last 4 fiscal years. And so each of these documents comes with a very varying degree of time savings. Some of them are 15 minutes. It's something we could have done really quickly. Some of them are a few hours if it's a determination key and it's a full concurrence letter. So there's a wide array of how much time each document saves us, and we have some metrics to help calculate that. And then we also, think about, time. Employees' time is salary money, it's overhead money. And so we have savings in terms of our time for our biologists. And really, we're not trying to say we need less biologists. What we want to be doing is saving our biologists time to then go out and work on really important conservation work and dig in on these really challenging projects that they need to be part of. And IPAC's trying to streamline the process underneath it and help automate a few of the really, let's call them low-hanging fruit. So that's really where we come to play. And what's probably even more interesting is above and beyond what we save for fish, we are saving exponential time for our action agency users and our partners who are using IPAC. So you heard me mention that it might save us 15 minutes to a few hours when someone generates a document through IPAC. It probably saves that person 1 to 4 weeks, conservatively, depending on what that document was. So these have really, the ability to use IPAC for the consultation process has really moved the needle and shifted how we approach our work and how we approach garnering good conservation through the Endangered Species Act without making the process itself be arduous. And hopefully that's what you find as you start using it out there. We are also always open to suggestions, feedback, criticism, improvement ideas, all of the above, as well as your representatives, you can reach out to Carrie in the office there. Our headquarters IPAC team has a single email, which we will provide this as well as a series of links that can be helpful to you. And please email us anytime. If you start using IPAC and you see something that you're like, this is horrible, or we love this, or do more of that. We're always open to and accepting feedback and looking for ways to make IPAC better. So with that, I will see if there's any questions, and then post questions, we will turn it over to Shelby for a demo, and you'll get to see the fun stuff.
Tori, it wasn't a question, but we did have a chat from Carrie that I thought maybe you'd want to speak to a little bit. Carrie mentioned in the chat that the consultation package builder is a challenge to implement in the Pacific Islands due to the number of federally listed species in this field office. So I responded letting folks know that we've talked about doing some improvements in the future, that in the CPB, which currently you go through a pretty in-depth analysis for each individual species one at a time. So it is very time consuming, even for species lists that you have less than 10, it'll take you several hours. So multiplying that times 40, it would be a lot. So some of the improvements that we've talked about is maybe adding some ability to analyze species together under either a taxa grouping or some other way. So I don't know, Tori, if you have anything else you'd like to add there.
I think that's probably one of the most effective improvements we're going to make to consultation package builder is the ability, we are investigating the ability to look at guilds. That may also come into play across the board on IPAC. We may have the ability to deliver D keys based on guilds of species eventually. We also we're looking at ways at possibly doing multi-select, apply my answers for this species to these other species because they're relevant within consultation package builder. So that's certainly, that's really a great point. When we set it up, and this was our kind of first version that came out, we haven't really gotten a chance to do some major improvements to it yet. It was set up to look at every single species, which is just prohibitive time-wise, really, when you're looking at getting a list of hundreds of species in one spot. If you think of other ways that we can try to consolidate and streamline, but we have probably 50 improvement idea tickets sitting on our wish list once I've got the developer bandwidth to start working on those. And hopefully as we make that, the package builder will become an even more useful project assistance tool and across the board.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's helpful for all of us, I'm sure. But me too, even because, we're all still learning is probably as obvious. So now who's going to give the walkthrough of creating a species list?
That'll be me.
Okay.
I don't know if you have any questions. So are we ready for our demo?
I think so.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm going to close all my Zoom stuff. There we go. Okay. So I did want to mention I'm going to be doing this demo today on beta, but before I do that, I wanted to show you what production or live IPAC looks like. So Tori mentioned that we have these two environments. This one is production. You can tell it's production in three ways. First, the URL does not have a B, ipac.ecosphere.fws.gov. The second way, top left-hand corner, is our Fish and Wildlife Service shield, as you would expect to see it on my shirt and elsewhere. And there's no banner on the bottom of the screen letting you know that you're on beta. If you're on beta, which is what I'm showing now, there's a B in the URL, ipacb.ecosphere.fws.gov. The Fish and Wildlife Shield is now more of a brown kind of sepia tone, and it has a beta flag in the middle. And there's a beta banner at the bottom of the screen. We're trying to make sure that when you do projects on beta, you're not writing any official documents, and we're not actually sending any of these documents to the Fish and Wildlife Service on your behalf. When I say we, I mean IPAC isn't automatically sharing it with the field office, where on production, those things are happening. So I'm going to close out of this and I'm going to start kind of showing you what you see on the IPAC screen first, and then we'll get into a fun demo. So from the home page here, we scroll down just a little bit. We're going to ignore the buttons up there for now. We have a little bit of background about what you're going to see in IPAC. So we offer some tools to explore species and habitat. You can conduct a regulatory review, and you can build a consultation package, which is the CPB that we won't focus on today. If we scroll down a little bit more, we have several helpful videos. If you're unfamiliar with IPAC or you're training a new employee, for example, we have some background about IPAC more generally. We have a demonstration to request an official species list. We have a demonstration of a determination key. And then we have a demonstration of the consultation package builder and a very short commercial for the consultation package builder. Scrolling down a little bit more, we have frequently asked questions. And if you click on these, there's some more information here. And then there's some contact information all the way down at the bottom. If you find yourself with some questions, or you think you might have found a bug, or there's something wrong with your account, you can contact us down here, and that will send you to Debbie, who is on our call today. And she can help you connect you with us or with the other development team that we work with to help you solve whatever problem you found. I'm going to scroll back to the top here. And when you get to IPAC beta, you have two options. You can either log in right away, which I will show you a little bit later, but I'm going to start with our blue action button here, which is to get started. And you'll see those blue action buttons as we navigate through IPAC. The first thing you do when you're looking to get some information from IPAC for your project is to tell us where you're going to be doing your project. Where's your action area? So you start with a mapper here. It's interactive, so you can pan and move around. You can scroll in or scroll out. We have a couple different base maps you can use. So we have the street view, we have a satellite view, and we have a topographic map, depending on what your needs are. And you're going to start finding your location. You can use the first step here to just kind of explore. So we're going to look for Hawaii. And that's going to pan us to Hawaii. Once I get here, I can zoom in and kind of take a look at my map and see what I'm looking for. I can draw right on the map using our sketch tools. That'll zoom me in. I can edit these vertices if I need to. I'm going to go back to my define area. You can use a polygon or a line. You can upload a shapefile, or you can select by state or county. So if I'm looking for a particular county, I can just simply add that county here, and it will add that as my action area. For today's demo, I'm going to drag and drop a zipped shapefile right onto the mapper. It's going to bring us to a small area of Maui. And before I move on, if I'd like to see some other data that may be available in my action area, I can click on this layers button in the bottom left-hand corner. We have a whole bunch of data in here that may be helpful for you. We have our critical habitats. I'll click OK. You can see we have several critical habitats that overlap my action area. If you click on this layer, we'll see a list of the critical habitats that are in this location where my little dot is. Other layers, I'll just show you what else we have in here. Under environmental data, we have some citing for some states that have asked us to add that data. We have some land cover information. We have national wetland inventory information. If we scroll down, we have some Bureau of Indian Affairs, county and county equivalents. We have some Forest Service boundaries. And then under Fish and Wildlife Service, we have Coastal Barrier Resources Act boundaries, refuge lands and fish hatcheries, and then we have some other fish and wildlife data available. If there's a web service, such as a GIS server that you use often, and it has a URL associated with it, you can add that URL here, and we can also show you that layer on our mapper. So once you're happy with your action area and you've taken a look at any resources that you'd like to see from our additional data layers, you can click on the blue action button, Continue. This might take a minute to load, but once it does, we will see our list of resources that may be available in this action area. As Carrie mentioned, these are resources that may be here. So part of the consultation process is to decide and talk to the Fish and Wildlife Service about what actually is there. So this is a comprehensive list of what could be there. And the first tab here are endangered species. These are listed species and critical habitats managed by the Ecological Services Program. So they are species under the Endangered Species Act specifically. They are any species listed. So they are proposed, candidate, similarity of appearance, experimental populations, and of course, threatened and endangered. And we also have proposed and designated critical habitat. And once you get to this page, you'll see we do not have NOAA specific species. We do include species that share jurisdiction between the services, but for NOAA only species, you would have to consult separately with NOAA. IPAC is only for Fish and Wildlife Service species at this time. You'll see there's a list of all the species in our area. So we have them grouped by taxa group. So we have mammals and birds. Each of the species has a little tile that has its listing status. If there's a photo available in our system, there will be a photo. If you click on this tile, we have some additional information. So we have a description of the species. We have a link to general project design guidelines that have been uploaded by the field office that may help you in designing your project with this species in mind. And there's a link to the publicly accessible eco-species profile. One other thing I'll mention, we have species guidelines up here as well. So you'll see we have 86 species on our species list that had project design guidelines made available by your field office. They're all truncated into one PDF document. So you can open this and take a look at what those species guidelines were before or during your project design. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. You'll see we have these little critical habitat ovals if the species has critical habitat proposed or designated. And if we scroll all the way down to the bottom of our 91 species, you'll see we also have a list of 38 critical habitats. And if we click on them, they are an interactive map, and you can see what part of your action area overlaps the critical habitat. The next tab on the left-hand side are bald and golden eagles. There are none in this action area. If there were, there'd be a little bit more information here. We have migratory birds. These are birds protected under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act and the Bald and Golden Eagle Act. This is specifically a list of birds on the Birds of Conservation Concern list that is managed by the Fish and Wildlife Service. They may warrant some special attention, so we list them here for you to consider. We have similar thumbnail pictures and some additional information here, including probability of presence histograms, which may help you in your project design. If you'd like to see all of the probability of presence histograms, you can summarize them here, and all the species that have that available, we will truncate them into one visual here for you. The next tab are wildlife refuges and fish hatcheries that occur in the action area. In this case, we have one, the Olinda Administrative Site. We have a little bit more information, and we can see the map here where exactly that is in our action area. And lastly, we have wetlands. These are wetlands and aquatic habitats that may be subject to regulation under Section 404 of the Clean Water Act or other state or federal statutes. Because there's a lot of data associated with the National Wetlands Inventory, more often than not, when you come into IPAC, you'll get this little red exclamation point. That's just letting you know that it timed out. And in order for IPAC to load the resources page for you to start reviewing, it stopped trying to load the National Wetlands Inventory. All you have to do is go to that tab, and like I did, click this little red try again button. You'll see it's taking quite a bit of time now to load this data for us, but hopefully in a couple seconds it will. And there will be an interactive map that will show us the wetlands that may be associated with our project as well. We'll give it one more second. There we go. Okay, so now we have a little check mark here. We have a list of the 4 wetland areas that occur within our action area. And if we'd like to see them, we can scroll around in this map and find what those areas look like as well. So hopefully you've realized I haven't yet logged in. I am still logged out of IPAC, even though I have an account. So when I click on Define Project here, I'm now prompted to log in. Up until this point, none of the data that I've entered into IPAC is saved. I don't have anything that I can refer back to because I haven't logged in as myself, and I haven't defined a project, including a project name or description or any of that information. So once I get to this point, I will be prompted to log in with login.gov. I luckily have a login.gov account. So when I click on that button, it brings me to the login.gov for our beta system. When I scroll down, I will click on the sign in with your government employee ID, which I'll do in 1 second. But before I do that, I wanted to mention if you don't have a government employee ID, you can have an email address and password associated with a login.gov account. If there are any questions about that, hopefully either Debbie or Tori can chime in. We can certainly answer some of those questions. But I'm going to show you what it looks like if you have a government ID set up with your login.gov. So it's going to read my card. I'm going to enter my passcode when it prompts me to, hopefully soon. Oh, there we go. Okay. And then once I'm logged in, you'll see that my name is in the top right-hand corner here. That's letting me know that I'm now logged into my account. And I can add a project name, Hawaii Demo. Hawaii Demo. I'll just add a brief description here, OSL and D key, and I'll save. Are there any questions about what I've shown so far? I know we've had a couple chats.
I think a lot of the chats, all the chats I've seen so far are clarifying
Okay.
comments and no
Okay,
questions.
perfect. Okay, I will continue. So this is your project homepage. Once you have added a project name and a project description, the project is now saved in your IPAC account. So again, this project is saved on my IPAC beta account. So if I go over to production or live IPAC, I will not see this project. I would have to recreate it over there. But once I get to my project homepage, I can edit my name and description if they've changed or if I realized I wasn't very clear. I can also edit my project location if I realized my action area was missing a staging area, for example, or for some reason it needs to be updated. I can edit this location. I can also do that using the other data layers that were available to me before. If I'm collaborating on this project with other people, either in my program or in another program, or maybe a consultant, I can add other members to the project. All I would do is click on this little members tab on my project homepage, and I would add their email address. And once I add their email address and I click on add member, they will receive an email with a link to this project. If they already have an IPAC, in this case, IPAC beta account, then this project will be added to their IPAC beta project list. And every time they log in, it will be there. If they don't, it will prompt them to start an IPAC account and go through login.gov. And once they do that, they will have access to this project on their account. We also have a documents. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, we had a question that I think now is probably a good spot for you because you're near the map. Could you show like how to get back to the resources page from that map? Yes. And then go back to the wetland tools and just show a little bit more about how that functionality works as far as clicking around and getting more information about the wetlands when it's working.
Sure. So we'll go to wetlands. So now we click on and please let me know if this is what you're asking. I can click on these wetlands and it'll tell me the type of the wetland. It will tell me the size. And then there are some, there's a code usually associated with each wetland parcel, I guess. And there's some additional information about what that code means. So in this case, we have the system, the class, the subclass, and then some additional information about the seasonally flooded class for this wetland. And if you want to see them on the map, let me see. I wonder if they're just very small or if I can't see them. But usually you can see little blue outlines in your action area.
I think it might be very big and you might have to zoom way out.
Oh, maybe you're right. Let's see what happens. Usually they show on the map, but I'm showing. Yeah, I'm not seeing them right now.
Well, if we've got time post demo, there's a specific area that Melody's interested in seeing. So we'll come back to that again.
Perfect.
And I'll let you get back to where you were on the project page. I'll also just make one quick note that as Shelby was mentioning, adding members, there's no restrictions. This is not a governmental only or certain people won't so you can add members if you're doing a big collaborative project and you've got a state affiliate and you've got local sea grant and you've got a consultant and fish, you can add whoever you want to this and all work together and see the same thing at the same time.
Thanks, Tori. So from the project homepage, you'll see as I scroll down, you can always access that resource list again in the bottom left-hand corner. The bottom right-hand corner is the contact information for your local field office, in this case, Pacific Islands. There's a phone number, a fax number, and then the physical address. In the top right-hand corner, we have the option to continue, or I guess I should say in this case, start the Endangered Species Act review. So you can either start your review, which is what I'm going to do, or you can go straight to requesting an official species list if that's all you're here to do. I'm going to start the review because it's going to show us an overview of what that process looks like. We have a step-by-step consultation process specifically for Endangered Species Act in IPAC right now. We have 4 steps. I'm going to show you in demo form the first 2, which are requesting an official species list and evaluating determination keys. The official species list must be requested for any project that's conducted, permitted, funded, or licensed by a federal agency. But you can use this official species list even if your project is not federal, if you're just looking for this list of species for some other purpose. And determination keys are upfront analyses from the service that Tori mentioned. And the idea is that they're based on either a programmatic consultation or an internal standing analysis. And the goal is to help guide you to determinations for your project based on the answers that you provide to the questions that were put together from that programmatic or internal analysis. I'm going to click continue here, and that's going to bring me to my first step, the requesting an official species list. And I'm asked, does my project require an OSL? Or the official species list, and I'm going to say yes. And that's going to prompt me through a few questions about me, my contact information, my agency. Is the project conducted or funded, etc., by a federal agency? It is. Does my project fall under or is it funded through any of the following special project authorities? I'm going to say none. What kind of agency or organization are you working for? For the demo, I'm going to say I work for a federal agency. What is the federal action agency for this project? I'm going to say we are the lead. What is my role? I am the lead project proponent. What agency do you work for? I'm pretending I work for Department of Agriculture today. And then I add in my contact information here. So that includes my address and my phone number. My email is already attached to my login.gov account, so that comes in automatically. And you'll notice I didn't add any of this information today, and that's because in the past, I have clicked on this save this information to my profile little checkbox. So now every time I have to add my for me. If it ever changes, I can change my phone number here, click this button again, and then it will resave for me. I'm reminded what I added for my project name and description, and I can edit them here if I need to. And then I'm asked to select my project type. And in this case, we have a pick list that you can just put in a keyword search. I'm going to do animal control for the USDA. You'll see my location on a map, and I'm going to submit my official species list request using this blue button at the bottom. On beta, when you click on this submit button, Beta IPAC is going to create the official species list for me in a PDF. I can access it in my IPAC account. I can download it. I can refer back to it when I come back into IPAC in the future. And that's it. On production or live IPAC, when you click that submit button, you have the same access that you do on beta in the sense that you can review the document, you can download it, you can come back to IPAC later and it will be there. On production or live IPAC, that official species list is also automatically sent to the contact person for your local field office through email. And it's also stored in our internal tracking system that Tori mentioned called Ecosphere, and it's attached to your project. So because it takes a few minutes to process, typically, we're going to move forward to our next step determination keys. We'll keep an eye on this because it's currently putting that PDF together for us. And once it's done, we will have a green check mark here and we can come back and review that document. But for now, we're going to move on to our D keys. And we have 2 options available here to evaluate. You can only receive a determination for a species from one D key. So if a species is in both D keys, you have to pick one. In this case, we're going to use the USDA Wildlife Services bird damage management activities. I'm going to use that one to demonstrate for you. So I'm going to skip the first one here. And then my blue action button is going to move down to the second one. I could have just clicked the original evaluate if I wanted to, but I like the blue action buttons. Once you come in here, you'll see the title of the determination key, the release date for the D key. If there's been a more recent version or an update, that'll be reflected here. There's a description of the determination key explaining what the underlying document is, etc. I did mention this morning to our developers. We are working on it. There should be a link in this description to the programmatic or internal analysis document that this was based on in the description. You'll notice we don't currently have a link in there right now. Our point of contact out of Pacific Islands is getting that to me hopefully today or tomorrow so that I can update this. But just know in the future, there should be a link here that you can actually look at that underlying document and better understand what the programmatic or internal analysis is meant to cover. There's a list at the bottom of the screen of the species that are covered by the key. And specifically, there's a mention of species covered by the key that are not expected in your location. So Hawaiian common gallinule, I hope I pronounced that correctly, is covered by this D key, but it's not present in my action area. So I won't be evaluating it when I do my D key analysis today. And the D key does not cover any critical habitat. So the first thing you'll do is you'll check if your project qualifies for the D key, and if it does, then we'll ask you some additional questions. So I'm going to start here with my qualification interview. Is the action authorized, funded, or carried out by the Wildlife Services of the USDA? In this case, it is, so I'm going to say yes. Do the proposed actions occur at an airport or airfield? Now, they don't, but if they did, and I said yes, you'll notice that the determination key is kicking me out. It's saying your project is not qualified to be evaluated under this programmatic. Separate ESA consultation is necessary. So if your project, for whatever reason, does not qualify for the underlying programmatic or internal analysis, the D key says, sorry, see you next time, and it kicks you out. If you realized you clicked the wrong answer, you can change your answer, and I can say no, and that will move me to my next question. Have you made no effect determination for all other species on your official species list that are not covered by this key? In this case, to be able to move forward, I'm going to say yes. If I said no, it would kick me out. Will you conduct a survey of the project location prior to the start of any work to determine the presence of any listed species? Sure, I can do that. Do the proposed actions include harassment? So you'll notice harassment has this dotted line underneath it. It's very faint, it might be hard to see, but there is a little dotted line under harassment. And when I hover over it, you'll notice my pointer adds a different, there's like a little arrow and then a question mark. That's because if you hover over, there's a definition for harassment. So we can better explain understood by the person answering these questions. So do they include harassment? I'm going to say no. Do the proposed actions include methods of capture or trapping? I'm going to say no. Will I prohibit approaching, feeding, or disturbing federally listed species? I will. I will implement reduced speed limits in areas where listed species are known to be present, so I'll say yes. I will inform project personnel. I will minimize the time spent within wetland sites to only what is necessary to adequately conduct bird damage management. If a nest or active brood of a listed species is found, I will contact the Fish and Wildlife Service within 24 hours. If an active nest or brood is located, I will establish and maintain a 50-foot buffer around the nest. And I have a little footnote here letting me know what we mean. No potentially disruptive activities or habitat alteration will occur within this buffer. And then you'll notice, so once I said yes to question number 12, we had several questions come up automatically answered using hidden semantic questions. This is what Tori alluded to in her presentation earlier. What's really nice about determination keys that you can't do on paper, because your action area is already in IPAC, you drew it on that initial mapper, and that's what IPAC is used to include any of the species and all the other information so far up to this point. We also have other data available in IPAC that was added for this determination key. In this case, we have the areas of influence for all the species that are listed here. And the areas of influence are the IPAC version of a species range. There's a lot more complication in there, but just for the sake of keeping things relatively short, it's what we use to determine if a species is present on our IPAC lists. We're moving toward them being equal to current ranges in most cases, but there are some species that we still use what we call the area of influence. And in this case, the system is asking, does the project intersect the AOI, which we have in our database, for the Hawaiian hoary bat? And if our action area does overlap that AOI, then it automatically answers yes, and then moves into the next hidden semantic. And you'll see we had several of those in a row. And once those were answered, we finished our determination key and we reached a preliminary determination of may affect, not likely to adversely affect, for the species that are covered by this D key for our project. I'm going to save and continue. And that's going to bring me to a screen that summarizes what I've reached using the D key. So I reached may affect, not likely. Based on the answers provided, the proposed action is consistent with the determination of may affect, but not likely to adversely affect, as outlined in this determination key. As the action agency, you may verify concurrence for the determination. Fish and Wildlife Service will issue an automated concurrence verification supporting your determination. So until you click on yes, submit to Fish and Wildlife Service, you simply store this information in IPAC and it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't go to the service. You don't get an official letter. But if you would like to get an official letter and you would like to then send this letter to the Fish and Wildlife Service, you would click on yes, submit. That's going to bring up your contact information again. These questions should look very familiar. It's what we just answered for the official species list.
That's actually a perfect spot, Shelby. I think this is where Carrie mentioned she had a question regarding selecting entities. So while we have it up, because we use the same form, whether you're filling it out for a species list or filling it out for a D key. So Carrie, what was your question?
Yes, we've had several project proponents. One of them was the Office for Native Hawaiian Affairs. I cannot remember what the other one is right now, so forgive my lack of memory, but we've had at least two, maybe more, of our partners that don't have themselves in here. So I'm wondering if we can expand the list to, you know,
are they
the organization?
Are they governmental agencies?
Not all of them. So it'd be more like, what kind of organization are you working directly for? Like that one could probably be more broad. And then I think as far as the lead federal agency, I know the only federal agency I believe that wasn't in there. Oh, I know who it was. So for the lead federal agency, it was the Office of Native Hawaiian Affairs, which is not a department or an agency, it's an office. So that's like a gray area, but I know it'd be really great if we could get them in there. They would appreciate that. And it would make it easier for all of us because they are the lead for projects. And then for the one who couldn't find themselves in here, I want to say it was the Commission of Water Resources. That may not have been in there. Some of the state agencies are not included in the organization. Some are and some aren't.
So yes and no. So I think that's like the weird answer, right? We have a curated list of federal agencies, state agencies, county and county equivalent, etc. So if you come across that instance that you just mentioned, where like, this is a legit agency, it's missing from your list, 100%, we tell us and we will work with our data manager and we will get it in the data warehouse. And so we now have married data across IPAC and our ecosphere system. So this is all in one central place, because we can't have someone pick an agency in IPAC and then it doesn't match once it gets over there. So that's why it's a data request. But we certainly, if you have missing agencies that are governmental agencies, we want to add those to our list. What we're kind of struggling with right now are our non-governmental agencies, and Shelby can show you what that looks like. So if I am working for, you know, a non-governmental organization, we don't really have, you type it in because and we're trying to figure that out from a data management standpoint. That might change in the future, but for right now, because there's so many, like, that list would be exhaustive. We haven't kind of figured out how to thread the needle with, could we provide a list so that that wasn't a typo and it said then Nature Conservancy, because that happens. We get those in, people have a typo and then they save it. And then we've got like 5 weird iterations of the Nature Conservancy, knowing that it's all one group. But then if we have a static list, how does someone add themselves if they're new or they're just not on it? So
Yeah.
in this case, if it's still non-governmental organization, we'll just ask that you type in your name for now. And then we did add something recently on that drop down for organization, which is non-private, like private entity. And then we're adding some more kind of hopefully helpful options where people see, they're like, oh, this isn't none of these are me. Because we've heard that feedback in the past where we have all these structured drop-down lists and like, I don't even know where I fit.
Yeah.
So please continue to bring both to our attention as well as missing agencies along the shorter answer. Sorry, I should have led with that.
No, that's great to understand all of that. And that's good. So basically for anyone, on this call or on this meeting, and, if you talk to someone and they have this problem, they know that they can reach out to us, and especially for government and state, government, and for private entities, we'll get there.
Yeah. And that's the reach out to us is really the take home. You can reach out to the IPAC, the main IPAC address we shared. You can reach out to Carrie. If you're in IPAC, you can hit contact us and put that in your kind of form, and that'll go to Debbie and she'll log it that we need that agency added. So we multiple ways to reach out, and please let us know.
There were another 2 questions in here. The wetland question, again, going back to that though, they were asking if you could look at the wetland, maybe somewhere on the coast where we have a lot of coastal wetlands, if you could just kind of demo that. And then what else was there? Hal had a good question. And yes, we are developing the BioPacifica, our internal database, which is, we do plan to populate with all the invasive species. So that is a possibility.
Once that's available, then let's revisit that conversation. So, I joke that we're the Amazon of consultation. We don't make the products. We don't make the programmatics that we hang our D keys on. We don't make the maps that we reference for telling folks if you have a species, or the wonderful, helpful species guidelines that we deliver if you have that species. The folks that work on IPAC don't produce those things. We've just found a really effective way, and we work to deliver them and get them from people that do produce them to people that need them. So what we are good at is leveraging data once it's available. So once you have that new data set, then we can talk about setting up some way that we could deliver that for IPAC. Sorry, Shelby, I didn't mean to cut you like middle of a spot.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought she was finished. Or no.
She was almost finished, but this was the spot where your question was.
Really, really close.
Thank you, Victoria.
So just to finish out the demo very quickly, this information should hopefully look similar to what you've seen before. When you click on conclude NLAA and submit, again, on beta, you'll just receive your letter, but on production or live IPAC, you will receive your letter in IPAC, and it will send it to your local field office and track it in our internal system ecosphere. So again, that's why we always recommend beta if you're just kind of playing around and learning the system. But if you're looking for real consultation outcomes and real consultation conversations, then we would ask you to use the production or live IPAC. So you'll see we have a green check mark here for our official species list. And we can now take a look at that document. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in here because I do want to be able to show you the wetlands that Carrie just asked for. But what you'll see in these letters, it'll start with some letterhead with the contact information for your local office, Pacific Islands, the date that you requested the official species list. So if you ever need another one in the future, that date will update, and so will your species list if anything has changed. You'll have your project code. If you ever need to contact your fish and wildlife biologist at your field office, you'll want to include this project code so that they can look up your project in our ecosphere system and hopefully answer whatever questions you have. And then there's some information in here about what the official species lists are. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because they'll all look the same. At least this part will, because your field office has written that letter for you. You have your contact information here for your field office. Your project summary, this is the information that you added to IPAC, including a little inset map with a link to Google Maps if you need to see it outside of IPAC for some reason. And then your Endangered Species Act species list, including critical habitat, is down at the bottom here. And that'll bring you all the way down to the very last page where your contact information will be in this letter as well. You'll notice on beta, we say test project only. That's because the species data is not always as up to date on our beta system as it is on production or live IPAC. On production, the watermark will not be there. Your D key letter looks similar at the top. So I'm going to scroll down. We can view the concurrence letter that we just obtained. If you ever need to come in here, if something about your project has changed, you can always come back in here and view and modify this D key and receive a new letter. So keep that in mind. Same with your official species list. If your action area has changed, you'll have to come back in and update these documents for yourself.
And that's a really important point. Not only can you do that, you should do that. Because if you want to be like, oh, I made a mistake on that project, let me just go do another project that's right. What you've basically done is created two projects that we now have to figure out how to marry on our end in the database. And so just if you can change everything you need to change. If once you've done a project, you're like, oh, I can move that map, I can change my questions, just go in and modify.
Can you quickly just show the link under the species, one of the species, just so we can show them where the a lot of the important species information and project impacts and stuff can be found?
I'm not sure what you mean, Carrie. Is that back here?
Oh, yeah, right here. Like any of them,
Yeah.
just stop there. Here's a list of plants like that where it's, oh, that's only ecosphere. That doesn't
That's just the critical habitat. If you go up further, there's the ones with extra helpful information.
Oh, okay.
Are you talking
yeah,
about
here we
guidelines or
go.
the ECOS profile?
Well, no, there's also supposed to be the page where it gives the avoidance and minimization measures. It's called something different.
Oh, it's right there. The general project design guideline.
Yeah, where is that? Oh, yeah, that link. Yes, thank you. I know we would like it to say avoidance and minimization measures or something. But yeah, that is
Once it loads, I
the
do
link.
have it open. This is what it looks like. So
Yeah.
once you click on that link and it finally loads, it'll show you this avoidance and minimization conservation measures for listed plants.
Yeah,
specific
And so
islands.
this is the important information to
something, yeah.
include in your project, impacts analysis.
Mhm.
You want to include that species description, those avoidance and minimization measures and so forth. Like sometimes people will write, a near thesis for each species when they're submitting a consultation letter. And that's, it's great that they know all that information and they think that it's good to demonstrate to us that they know that, but it's more important to know the basics that we've provided and that they're going to incorporate, the recommended avoidance and minimization measures into the project description. And then that, and saves the project proponents time by not including so much in their letter, right?
Mhm. Thanks, Carrie.
Yeah.
So the D key letter looks similar. You have your project code, the date that you requested the letter. There's a little bit of information about the D key, a list of the species in your area and the determinations that you reached using the D key. Conservation measures that we agreed to. So you'll remember these questions that we were asked during our D key interview that we agreed to. They are summarized in the letter. And then there's some additional information about what you need to do moving forward. And the service will notify you within 30 days if they have any questions or need to reach out to you separately. And then you'll see at the bottom here, we have all the answers to the questions that you offered in the qualification interview in case you need to refer back to this for any reason. And once again, your contact information. So now anytime you finish obtaining one of these documents in IPAC, so we have our concurrence letter, we have our species list. Anytime you have a document created like that, if you come back into IPAC, let's say you log into IPAC, you haven't been in here in a while. This is what your project project list will look like. This is that demo that we just completed. I can return back to this project at any time, go to my project homepage, can edit my name and description. I can edit my action area. I can also access any of the documents I've already obtained. So I can refer back to that species list, that not likely to adversely affect concurrence verification letter, my project design guidelines that Carrie just mentioned, and then my project location or shapefile I can download if I need it for any other purpose.
And we're also in the next week or so, that will be, right now it's only an RQ shape file, but we're adding the capability to both upload and download through KMZs and KMLs, which is what Google Earth uses. So we know a lot of users work in that platform, so you'll have options.
Thanks, Tori. Any questions? I know we only have a couple minutes left. Hopefully we have enough time. I can open another map and I can show you the coastal wetlands that you asked for, Carrie.
Yeah, I'd
I
like,
haven't even really.
Melanie asked for that, and I think
That
that
was Melanie. Okay.
it would just be fun to have a different view of something. Thanks.
Yeah, if
Sure.
you have time, that would be great. I tried running through it myself in a second window while you were going through the demo.
Mhm.
And I saw that there's some caveats on the wetlands inventory layers that kind of say they're in the process of maybe being updated.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if you were aware that Maui County is currently undergoing a wetlands mapping process of their own that you might be interested in incorporating in the future. But
Yeah,
just for
we're
now, I'd
working
love to
with them.
see. Oh, fantastic. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Cool.
Nice.
Do you have a location in mind where you'd like me to draw a project?
Oh, just anywhere that's in a little bit more of an urban area. I was just curious if you would still get that whole
Why don't
thing.
Maybe
why don't we
Kihei,
do
like go to
Kihei?
Maui
Yeah.
again.
Yeah,
You
go to
mentioned
Kihei.
Maui and like Kihei area, like near the refuge, like that sliver. Yeah, somewhere in
Here?
there.
Right
Here?
there. That's
Mhm.
perfect.
Yeah, that would be great.
And
Do that.
yeah,
We can even just turn on the NWI layer. Like, so you don't even have to draw a project boundary. That layer that we query for it under environmental data, I think.
There it is. You're right.
oh,
You could just turn that
Okay.
layer on as your base map and give it a second. As you saw, it takes
Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big
A
layer.
lot of data.
Uh-huh.
we are working behind the scenes to hopefully make this faster as well.
I'm amazed at the amount of data that's in here. It's
Thank
just
you.
incredible. The
I guess just while that loads in, I'm with Hawaii Sea Grant and we currently have been contracted with Maui County, the planning department, to kind of create a similar mapping tool for them using the new wetlands data, as well as some other layers of environmental sensitivity as kind of like a screening tool for development permitting.
Mm.
And so I'm interested in just making sure that there's not, too much duplication of effort between the two tools. And that was one of my main reasons for asking that question, was just to see what your tool could bring up when it comes to the wetlands and the existing data that you have.
yeah. Maui Nui hasn't been updated since the 80s. Oahu and Kauai were updated in around 2000, and Oahu was updated again just a couple years ago. But we are in touch with the county. We're in touch with HT Harvey and Shaheen and those guys. Like we're definitely interested in maximizing the collaborative effort and utilizing providing enough input for them, data for them and so forth, that also when the end product comes out, inventory. It won't be quite as comprehensive as what we do because they're focusing more in urban areas.
Yes.
It won't, but but we're definitely working with them and very excited about the project.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad
If you want to
already knew
reach out
about
to me separately, Melanie, please do.
it. Okay, thanks, Carrie.
Yeah.
And we do have some API capability. So if you end up building a platform, there's a way that you can screen some of the data that Shelby's been showing in front of login. You could pull it through and put it into your native program. The caveat is it's all you can do. So if you also still need to get an official species list, you then need to go over to IPAC and drop your project location there and get your list.
Okay.
But if they wanted to ingest some of the data, any of the data that we show ahead of login, we have the ability for it to come over in kind of neutral format, and you can make it show up however you want in the platform you're designing.
Oh, that's great to know.
Sure,
Thank
I'll send you the API information. We'll copy you, Carrie, in case this comes up in other areas.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Does anyone else have any other questions before we let these brilliant ladies go? What a resource, gosh. Thank you so much.
I just want to
Very
say
good.
thank you, because I basically was trying with Carrie to get past just the login password, which was so frustrating. And, it was great because Jen also helped as well. And I think I learned way more in this presentation that I don't think we even covered when we were trying to do the initial species list. So it's great. Thank you so much again. I appreciate it. And everyone who had, given their time as well to look at this. And we'll also have this videoed. So we'll send the links out. So if you can leave your email, we'll be sure to send you that link as well.
And will this be posted anywhere as well, like on the website you said, or?
It'll go up on the EAC's website. And
Okay.
it'll be in the docu-file for the same place where you access the environmental report.
Okay.
It'll just be there for forever. You're
Yeah. So then I just,
yeah.
well, yeah, I just want to say for that. So anyone watching this in the future, if you struggle with the login.gov, please reach out to us. Don't spend hours trying to figure that out. We have a team that can help and assist with that. And it can be frustrating.
Yes, I
Great,
can.
Karen.
I'm more than happy to work with anybody that has trouble with the login.gov.
Thank you,
Debbie's
Debbie.
an expert. If anybody can help you, it's Debbie.
Yes.
There we go. Debbie Jenkins is their IT person, and she joined us today just to make sure everyone knew they were welcome to get her assistance. So this is great.
Thank you, Debbie.
Good teamwork.
You're welcome.
Thanks for giving us this chance to talk about IPAC today.
Wish I was there. Not gonna lie.
Same.
Come on over.
I'm sure
Yeah.
we can probably get you guys out here for some kind of site visit, right?
That'd be awesome.
We should ground truth that wetlands data.
Well, actually, I'm thinking about taking a trip in January with my daughter, and Oahu was one of the places we were looking at. I want to see Pearl Harbor and Arizona because I'm Navy and stuff, but I thought it'd be really nice to, sorry, the puppy's here, somebody.
Yeah. Well, reach out if you do.
Okay. All
All
right,
right.
sounds good.
Well, we're
Okay,
6 minutes early. Does anyone have anything they'd like to fill that 6 minutes with, or shall we say aloha?
Aloha and a hui ho. Which means until we talk again, until next time. Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
I'll stay on, Mary.